how blood flows through the heart. It's a one-way passageway. So it goes in a certain order, and we always start with blood flow through the right side of the heart. So when we're looking at the right side of the heart, we're always looking in the patient's chest in anatomical position. So we're always looking at their right, not our right. And so we're going to always start with the right atrium. And at the right atrium, if you remember from the lecture last time, the right atrium receives its blood from the vena cava, the superior and inferior vena cava. So it goes through the right atrium. And then there's a valve, and there's a valve that is going to be separating the atria and the ventricle on both sides of the heart. And the one on the right side of the heart is called tricuspid valve. And we'll get into a little bit more about that in a second. Then it goes into the right ventricle, so the lower chamber on the right side. Once it gets into the right ventricle, it's going to go through another valve, and the valve is going to be between the ventricle and the pulmonary trunk. So it goes through something called the pulmonary semilunar valve. It goes into the pulmonary trunk, which isn't shown here, but the pulmonary trunk branches into the right and left pulmonary arteries because we have two lungs. We have a right and a left lung, so we have to get blood to both lungs. And then it goes to the lungs. Now this is where we're going to exchange gases. So carbon dioxide is going to be, we're going to breathe the carbon dioxide out, we're going to breathe the oxygen in. Now once we've exchanged the gases, now it has more oxygen. So we have exchanged the carbon dioxide with the oxygen. The right side of the heart is said to have deoxygenated blood. The left side has oxygenated blood. So once we have oxygen in our lungs, it is going to get into the pulmonary veins, and we have right and left pulmonary veins. This is going to be an oxygenated vein, one of the few, and it's going to go into the left side of the heart because the left side of the heart is now oxygenated. So we start with the left atrium, and between the left atrium and the left ventricle, we have a bicuspid valve, another valve, and then it goes down into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it goes through another valve. There are 4 valves, and it's the aortic semilunar valve. Then it's going to go into the aorta. Now, once it gets into the aorta, then that's where we're going to pump all of our blood throughout our body, and that is called systemic circulation. So systemic circulation is getting oxygenated blood to all of our body. The right side of the heart we consider pulmonary circulation, which is just going from the lung to the lungs and back. So this is what it all looks like. So whenever you see the kind of the bluish coloration, we always consider that to be deoxygenated blood, and the red is going to be oxygenated blood. And we're going to do a little bit more with this diagram in class. So coronary circulation, so we have pulmonary circulation where we're going from the heart to the lungs and back, and then systemic circulation to the rest of the body. Now coronary circulation is really important because coronary circulation is getting the blood and the oxygen to the muscle in the heart. So that the blood that goes through the chambers actually doesn't oxygenate the cells of the heart. So we have to get blood to the heart just like any other organ. So we have a coronary circulation. Now, if something is occluded, occluded just means blocked. So if one of the coronary arteries is blocked, we have collateral routes to ensure blood delivery. So we have these kind of offshoots where we can kind of go around the occlusion. But if we can't get enough blood to the heart, then this can cause a heart attack, or people need to get a stent to open up that coronary artery. All right, here we go with the valves. So because we have unidirectional flow through the heart, like we just touched on, we have these valves that are making sure there's no backflow. So we have something called the atrioventricular valves, and those are the valves that are going to be between the atria and the ventricle. And these AV valves prevent backflow back up to the arteries when the ventricles contract. And we have these little things called chordae tendineae, and they're basically strings that anchor these valves to papillary muscles. And we're going to see this more when we actually dissect the heart itself. Then we have two more valves. They're considered to be semilunar valves. And we have one at the base of the aorta, and we have one at the base of the pulmonary trunk. And so what these are going to be doing is prevent backflow into the ventricles. So this is what the valves look like. So we've got our tricuspid valve here, which is on the right-hand side of the heart. And this is, the tricuspid valve has three cusps. That's why they call it the tricuspid valve. And this is the bicuspid valve. It has two cusps. And then here's the aortic semilunar valve and the pulmonary semilunar valve. And all they are doing is just preventing backflow. And so then this is, a cross-section, or not a cross-section, it's a section of the heart, sagittal section of the heart. And you can see these little white fibrous things. Those are called chordae tendineae. And the chordae tendineae is then attached to these papillary muscles here, and it's going to kind of open or control the opening or closing of those valves.